Alright, today we're going to try and place this turbo inlet with an aftermarket one and put on an air oil separator. My intake's made by Gimmick, and my air oil separator is made by Grimspeed. I'm going to show a quick install. There are some better detailed videos on this online, but I'm going to give you guys a quick overview of what it is, and hopefully it won't rain on us too much. First thing I'm going to try and do is just unhook all the hoses that go to this air intake. Okay, so I think I'm going to have to take off the intercooler to get to this one. To get the top mount off, make sure you got all these bolts out. There's a gasket behind you here you want to save. Undo these two. These are all, I think they're supposed to be 12s, but they only work for me as a 13. Make sure you undo this hose clamp, and make sure you undo that hose clamp on the turbo. With the intercooler off, you've got a ton more room to work. You can see your turbo. You can see all the little hoses and the turbo inlet. It's nice. That fitting right there, I was able to pull that off. There's no clamp on it. I'm doing that because I need that for because I'm running an oil catch can. I mean an air oil separator. But I pulled that off, and then I could get this clamp up to the top so I can pull off this hose for the blow-off valve. Once you've got that off, go ahead and undo this Allen bolt, and then start trying to pull this intake out. You're going to probably end up needing to snap off some of these connections on here. So that was the fun part, getting able to release your frustrations on these little fittings. So as you can see, I've broken them all off where they connect, and once you've done that, you can just grab this and wiggle that son of a bitch out. Here's the old turbo inlet. Turns out this thing was torn. See a little bit of daylight through there. So that was not good. But yeah, I tore it up pretty bad. Side by side with the new one. So this right here is the reason why I decided to do this right now. Because those fuel clamps are leaking. So I pulled this out so that I can tighten those down. So that fuel sitting down there, that's dangerous. I definitely recommend tightening these while you're in here. Definitely do it. For the ones that are pointing in the wrong direction, you can grab them with vice grips and turn it counterclockwise, so then it's upside down, it'll tighten it. Next, you're going to want to take off all of these connections and hose clamps except for this one, so you can slide it through a little bit better. Just wiggle it through, slow and steady. You just got to get it down and around. These are flexible for a reason. Make sure you don't tear anything up. Once it gets down here, it gets a little tricky, but you got to wiggle that onto the turbo. You can use a little screwdriver, push it around the bottom. An angled pick works the best, and then just steady pressure from the back. Just FYI, you got to go underneath this wiring harness, otherwise you don't have clearance. So it's on, but if you look, I forgot to put on a hose clamp. So I'm going to try and get that figured out. I did take out the metal piece on that one. I'm going to try and put that back in now, hope I can. That goes to your blow-off valve return. But other than that, play it safe. It's easy. Hardest part so far has been getting this fitting in. You have to unbolt that. You can see that bolt hole open. You have to unbolt that to get it in. A tip for getting the turbo inlet on: if you stick a screwdriver down in there, you can use it to sort of push against the turbo while you tighten the bottom. So right now I'm just trying to get all these hose clamps on. It's starting to rain pretty hard, but I got that connected, which is the hardest thing that I had to do. That was very difficult to connect. This one was very hard, but I got that on too. This one's on. This part is on as well. it's tight up by the turbo. Make sure you press against the turbo while you tighten it, so, otherwise it'll tend to try and come off. Make sure you reattach these lines if you unhooked them. Next thing I'm going to do is run a hose from this, and we're going to start setting up our air oil separator. Well, I dropped a bolt, but yeah, that's the bolt that goes to that, which goes through that bracket. That should be fine. Next, we're going to install this Grimspeed air oil separator. You're going to start by removing your oil cap. Then you screw it on, and they say have it facing about 11 o'clock towards the center. Next, we're going to run our lines. The 3 nipples on this, the middle one is suction. That is the one that goes to the vacuum. These 2 are for your oil sources. So this one is going to be run right to this nipple right there. What used to connect to that, this one is going to connect over here, and then this one connects to that nipple right there, which used to go into that one, and then you'll block that one off. With that on that end, you're going to want to go ahead and just measure out how much you're going to need and then cut it. Second hose is run to the middle. That's where the suction comes from. Then the last hose, you're going to run to this nipple right there. Next, you want to put zip ties on each one of these connections just to make sure that it doesn't go anywhere. So next, you're going to put the intercooler back on, and then you're pretty much done. It's a good idea to come back the next day or a couple days later after you've driven some and retighten all your clamps. Here is the turbo inlet. And the Grimspeed air oil separator. I went ahead and did a purge valve delete because I broke it. Post a separate video about that. Thanks for watching. Comment if you have any questions, I usually respond. And that's how to install a Gimmick turbo inlet and a Grimspeed air oil separator on a 2005 WRX. So I seem to have gained a PSI or 2 from this. I must have fixed a vacuum leak that I had. My review after driving for a day or 2 with this is that it's made the car run a little bit smoother. It seems like it tips into boost a little bit faster. It overall, and it feels better, and everything runs smoother. I definitely recommend this to anybody. Even if your turbo inlet does not look like it's ripped, it probably is ripped, especially if it's the original one that came on the car, 20 years ago, 15 years ago. But I mean, so far, yeah, I definitely recommend this.